everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Robin's Reading Nest, and I am Robin. If you are new here, please go back and go through my videos, and maybe you can find a new book to try out, or maybe you can uh, go into the comments and give me a book similar to what I've recommended so that I may add it to my TBR list. If you have been with me ever since the beginning of this journey, I want to thank you for starting and to continue this journey with me. And today's book is Sisters with a Side of Greens by Michelle Stimpson. Okay, so let's get a little bit of the summary here. Rose Dewberry-Tillman retires after 30 years at the post office. She decides that sitting home is not how she wants to live out the rest of her life. She believes that opening the restaurant that she always dreamed of having is the way to go. The only thing that would take her cooking to the next level is to use her mother's seasoning blend. The problem is that the only person who knows the exact ingredients is her sister, Marvina Dewberry-Nash. But Marvina and Rose have been estranged for some time. A sanctified Holy Ghost-filled Christian who does not approve of the life that Rose has made of herself, Marvina has, according to her, lived a life of service to the community, church, and God that will guarantee her a seat beside God in heaven. The reason that they are estranged differs greatly depending upon which sister you ask. Rose says it's because she sent Marvina $40 to register the restaurant so that it could go into business together. Instead of doing that, Rose maintains that Marvina used it to bail her husband out of jail. If you ask Marvina, the estrangement is due to Rose being a homewrecker and leaving the home to be with the married man. In reality, it's a mix of truth, perceptions, misunderstanding, and judgment. As the sisters spend time trying to unpack the estrangement, they become guardians of a pregnant teen who is in need of help. Will the sisters be able to reconcile? Will Marvina give Rose the ingredients for their mother's seasoning? Or will the responsibility of watching over a pregnant teen cause the sisters to forget about their issues and work together? Our first character, Rose Dewberry-Tillman, left her small town of Fork City, Texas, and built a life that at first seemed perfect. She had graduated college, married the love of her life, and became pregnant. After losing 3 babies and dealing with a cheating spouse, Rose spent the next 30 years working at the post office. Our second character is Rose's sister, Marvina Dewberry-Nash. She is what people would call a perfect Christian. She has the heart of a servant and basically lives in church. She has dedicated her life to others. The one flaw that she can't hide from is the fact that her son is gay and that they are estranged. She blames their mother's illness on Rose's marriage to David. She believes that the shock of learning that Rose was a side chick is what started the decline of their mother's health. Our next character is David Tillman, who is Rose's ex-husband. He's good with numbers and business, but bad in relationships. He believes that Marvina felt that he stole Rose from their family. Even though he has somewhat of a wandering eye, David and Rose have remained friends for the last couple of years, and Rose feels like that she can tell David anything and count on him for help if need be. Carisha Smith is the pregnant teen that was found hiding in Marvina's guest house. She is feisty and speaks her mind. She has had a hard life growing up, but vows to be the best mom that she can be. She helps to bring Marvina and Rose into the 21st century with her lingo and technology. I would say that religion played a lot into how their sisters both grew up. With Rose, she felt like there were a lot of loopholes in the Bible, a lot of judgment that was not needed, and a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense. So she decided to live her life the way that she saw fit. She vacationed, she traveled, she made friends, she moved to another city, and she feels like her life was fulfilled. Whereas Marvina felt that if it was in the Bible, it was law, and that's the way it was supposed to be. So she spent her days as a stay at home wife and mom, and she dedicated a lot of her time to the church. While reading the book, we learned that Marvina's husband hit the lottery. We don't know how much it was for. We don't know how much money that Marvina has left. The only thing that we really see is that Marvina bought a pretty nice sized home that has a guest house in the back, and it has a lot of acres, and it kind of sits out in the country. We also, other than finding out that her son is gay and that he has moved to Washington State, I believe it was, we really don't get much on her son either. But what we do find out is that even though Marvina has spent the majority of her life trying to serve the Lord and have this image of a perfect Christian, the one constant in her life was church. And then one day the pastor tells her that things are going to start changing. They're going to start to integrate with one of those mega churches. And it's almost like a franchise if you think about it. And that the old ways just won't do. By this, he means that Marvina's cooking classes that she has with the teens are no longer needed. The community plates that she fixes every weekend are no longer needed. Everything she does not fall in line with the idea of this new church. Marvina is crushed. I mean, think about it. If you've given your life to this one thing and it's the only thing that brings you joy, and then someone suddenly snatches it away, you really don't know what to do with yourself after that. It makes you take a long, hard look at your life and make you say, well, what could I have done with this other time that I've given to this certain project and now it no longer benefits me? As Rose returns to Fork City to talk to Marvina about their mother's seasoning, she sees that, it's pretty much the same small town that she's left. The stores that she used to visit as a child have closed down, and that there's just really no change. And she's like, I'm kind of glad that I left this place. But in reality, Fork City is starting to change, and that's evidence of the church starting to change also. So what's happening is gentrification is starting to make its way to Fork City. Families are starting to move out into the country and build homes, and they want better schools. But at the same time, they also want those Starbucks and all of those Five Guys and all of the restaurants that come along with it. So while looking around, Rose decides, hey, the restaurant that I really wanted to start when I was in college may be a chance to get it done here in Fork City. So if I can just get my mother's seasoning, get the ingredients to that, then hey, who knows? Maybe I can start up this restaurant again. The one thing that Rose and Marvina share is the ownership of their childhood home. Marvina is the landlord and the property manager. She takes care of anything the tenants may need, such as fixing things or replacing things. So once she collects the rent, she will take her share and she will send Rose the remaining profits so that she could also get her share. But while in Fork City, Rose decides, why not just sell our childhood home? We could take that money and restart this restaurant idea, and the only thing she has to do is to get Marvina to get on board. But it seems like whenever Rose wants to sit down and talk to Marvina about restarting this business, about selling their mother's home, and about opening a restaurant, it seems like it's never an appropriate time. Something always comes up, like Marvina Marvina's interaction with the pastor, that comes up. So Rose decides, okay, well, maybe I'll tell her later. Um, them finding Carisha in the guest house happened, so that doesn't become a good time to talk about it. It's just like every time there's always a roadblock. So let's talk about Carisha. Carisha's mom is she seems to be having a pretty rough go of it herself. She's an alcoholic, and she kind of feels like, hey, Carisha got herself into being pregnant, so she wants to be grown. She's on her own. There's nothing I can do about it. After realizing who Carisha's mom is, Marvina and Rose go over to talk to her and, try to say, hey, this is your daughter. She's having your grandchild. You, as a grandparent, you need to stand up and help her. She's still a child. And Carisha's mom is like, well, hey, if y'all want to take that responsibility, go ahead and be my guest. So that's kind of how, well, part of the reason of why they have been considered Carisha's guardians. But the funny thing is, Rose says that Carisha reminds her so much of herself, just the younger version. And she likes the fact that Carisha is a tell it how it is, no holds barred type of person. And everything that Carisha says to Rose seems to make sense and makes Rose take a second look at things. Whereas Marvina, still stuck in her ways, is like, Carisha, you're a child. You don't know what you're talking about. But as you continue reading, I mean, Carisha seems like the real adult in this situation. Even though she's 19 years old, she's very mature for her age. And she gets those sisters right on together. Because of the title, I really thought that this was going to be a cozy food book. And I thought that there were going to be recipes, because the title is Sisters with a Side of Green. So I thought maybe at the end of the book that we would get a recipe for greens. But during the book, the sisters never cooked any greens at all. The only thing they seemed to cook was pot roast, crock pot roast, and there was no recipe for that. And they also did breakfast. There was no recipes for that. I think that even adding the ingredient list for the seasoning would have been a good recipe to add to the back of the book. But what I did find out is that you really can purchase the seasoning, and I'll put a link to that below in the description box. But I ordered 2 packs, and they were $5 each. And I think I'm going to make a couple of the dishes that were in the book, even though the recipes were not included. But I'm going to use those seasonings to do that. Like, for instance, there was one scene where Carisha was in the hospital, and we already know hospital food has no taste at all. But one of her meals was meatloaf and mashed potatoes and green beans. And Carisha took a bite of the meatloaf, and she was like, oh my God, it's like cardboard. It doesn't have any taste to it. So Marvina sprinkles some of the seasoning on the meatloaf. And then Carisha was like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. And so I was like, hey, what does this seasoning taste like? Because it really does make you want to taste it, because everyone who has eaten their cooking is like, oh my God, Marvina and Rose, they cook so well. And the seasoning, it's so good that you could even eat it on ice cream. So once I get my seasonings in, I plan to make the meatloaf, obviously, and I'm thinking maybe a pot roast. But like I said, I'll put the link down to the website so that you can get the seasoning. Also, in previous videos, as I stated, I would like to do a food playlist, kind of recreating the recipes that are in some of the books, because a lot of the cozy mysteries that I've read, they have recipes in the back. So I figured, maybe I could use this seasoning on a couple of those items. I would love to see a part two of this book, though. I would like to see how Marvina and her sister's relationship grows or declines um, after them, kind of talking their issues out. I would also like to see maybe Carisha's baby's first birthday party or something that maybe the sisters hosted. And I would also like to see Marvina get back in touch with her son and kind of see if they can, heal some of the trauma that they have. Overall, I really like this book. I know I always say that, and they're probably say, well, you like every book you read. No, I don't like every book I read, because if you follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you will see some of the books that I've said, oh, I've currently read this book. But if you look back on my YouTube, some of those books I don't do reviews on because I didn't like them. Um, I, there's one book, I'm not going to tell the title of it, but I had such high hopes for this book and I read it and I said, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time doing a review on this. We're just going to stick to the books I like. I mean, I know that's bad because I need to not have a bias on books, but yeah, and some of them books I was just like, yeah, no. Mm-mm. But I did like this book. I like the story of the sisters because I'm very close with my sister. We are 5 years apart, and we may fuss and fight, but nothing like what Marvina and Rose do. And that's another thing, kind of comparing me and my sister to those two sisters. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. We even never had an argument that lasted. You know what? Come to think of it, I can't even think of an argument where we stopped speaking with each other. Yeah, not from the time we were growing up until now. Can't think of that. Hmm. But yeah, so I gave this book 4 out of 4 stars. I like the characters in the book. They were very complex and they were funny at times. I think I was rooting for Rose the entire time. It's just something about always wanting to pursue your dream that really sticks with me. I think everyone, no matter how old you are, should have the chance to do whatever they have dreamed of. I don't think you should let age stop you from pursuing your dreams. I mean, if you think about it, when you were a child, even if you dreamed to be an astronaut, you should not be held back from wanting to do what you always wanted to do. I mean, even if you can't get into a rocket ship and go to the moon tomorrow, go to a planetarium, go to the NASA, um, what is the NASA building in Florida? Go somewhere that really, let's see, what's the word? Piques your interest. You know what I'm saying? You might can't do exactly what you want to do, but maybe there is something similar that you can do. I think while you're on this earth, If it makes you happy, then you should do it. You should never live a life of regrets. So I think Rose deserved to have that restaurant. I also think that Marvina deserved to have her sister around because they were close when they were younger. And it's such a shame that they couldn't remain that way through their adulthood. But yeah, so that's my review for Sisters with a Side of Greens. If you have a book similar to this one, please drop down in the comments and let me know what it is. Also, while you're here, please like, share, and subscribe. And as I mentioned, you can also follow me over on TikTok and Instagram. Like and follow me over there. And until next time, thank you for visiting Robin's Reading Nest, where birds of a feather read together.